South Africa is in shock after Deputy President Paul Mashatile was caught in a firestorm of global scandal that has rocked the country to its foundations. In a stunning reversal that few predicted, Mashatile has been apparently refused a critical foreign visa after a bombshell international arrest warrant emerged, throwing the African National Congress, ANC, into an all-time crisis and provoking fury around the world. What started as rumors of improprieties concerning Mashatile's financial transactions has snowballed into a full-blown diplomatic crisis, leaving South Africa's deputy president politically incapacitated, legally vulnerable, and internationally humiliated. It was confirmed by sources close to the deputy president that Mashatile's much-anticipated visit to join an international economic forum was suddenly cancelled after foreign officials blacklisted his visa application. The refusal, officials insisted, was not procedural, it was political. Referring to the presence of an outstanding arrest warrant, foreign governments associated him with suspected corruption, offshore financial irregularities, and potential misuse of public money. Information on the visa rejection and warrant initially leaked through diplomatic sources before going viral in worldwide media outlets. Rather than getting on a plane to stand for South Africa on the international stage, Mashatile was grounded, his honor torn to shreds by headlines declaring him a fugitive from justice. The scandal has sparked international outrage. Global watchdogs and human rights groups called in an instant for the full disclosure of the accusations against him, requiring Pretoria transparency and ANC accountability. Certain pressure groups cautioned that inaction would serve to encourage corruption elsewhere on the continent, weakening democratic rule. Top dailies in London, Washington, and Brussels splashed the news across their front pages. Some commentators labeled it the greatest humiliation for South Africa since the apartheid-era sanctions once isolated the country internationally. The European Union also insisted on explanations, threatening that further tolerance of corruption in the ANC would risk diplomatic trust and future trade arrangements. In Washington, a number of politicians demanded targeted sanctions, contending that South Africa stands to be put on a list as a corruption haven for political elites. Even the African Union spoke out strongly, warning that this scandal risks undermining Africa's credibility on the international stage and reversing years of advance towards collaborative anti-corruption reforms. The response wasn't confined to political circles. Global financial markets fluctuated in reaction to the news. Investors, panicked by the prospect of uncertainty in Pretoria, started retreating from South African assets, sending the rand plummeting in overnight trade. Experts cautioned that long-term volatility would undermine foreign investment and exacerbate an already struggling economy with rising joblessness and chronic power shortages. The image of South Africa as a stable economic partner was suddenly called into question. Within the nation, the ANC was plunged into disorderly crisis mode. Overnight emergency meetings were held at Luthuli House, where insiders have said factions were in open war with each other as leaders squabbled over how to deal with what most are referring to as the Mashatile disaster. Some senior officials demanded he be suspended pending investigation, while others strongly defended him, accusing the warrant of being politically driven and intended to embarrass South Africa on the international stage. The increasing splits within the ANC have triggered fears that the scandal may unleash wider instability within the ruling party. President Cyril Ramaphosa is now facing an impossible dilemma. If he distances himself from Mashatile, he may be exposing profound fractures within his administration and alienating loyalists who see the deputy president as a political ally. But if he comes to his defense, he may drag himself, and the presidency, into the midst of the scandal. This is the ANC's darkest hour, one insider was quoted as saying. We are facing collapse from within and humiliation from the outside. Pressure is massive on Ramaphosa to act decisively, but also with caution. For South Africans in general, the news has fallen like a bombshell. In a country already bruised by unemployment, poverty, and load shedding, the perception that its deputy president is at the center of international criminal charges feels like the ultimate betrayal. Social media networks exploded within minutes of the news breaking. Hashtags such as hashtag Mashatile exposed, hashtag ANC crisis, and hashtag global shame trended as outraged citizens ranted their rage. Throughout neighborhoods and workplaces, arguments raged about the future of the ANC and the legitimacy of its leadership. Protest action has started gathering steam, with increasing demands for Mashatile to resign forthwith. Civil society organizations have pledged countrywide protests and warned that this scandal represents the complete collapse of the leadership in the ruling party. According to some activists, the ANC, which was once the epitome of liberation and democratic values, has now come to be associated with corruption and impunity. Labor unions and student groups are said to be organizing marches, presenting the crisis as a crossroads for South Africa's democracy. Legal experts caution that Mashatile might not only suffer political embarrassment. If the international arrest warrant is filed with Interpol, South Africa will likely be pressured to oblige under great pressure, potentially precipitating diplomatic showdowns if Pretoria would not cooperate. Foreign governments might start freezing assets or accounts associated with Mashatile and his colleagues, causing more financial turmoil. Such actions would probably induce demands for a comprehensive investigation in South Africa itself, possibly turning up more evidence of corruption in the ANC's top ranks. If these measures are taken, it might ignite the biggest case of corruption in South African history. Global courts can call for cooperation, compelling the ANC to disclose sensitive financial information and potentially exposing more alleged improprieties by other top officials. Opposition politicians are already whispering that they believe the scandal is only the beginning of something much larger, alleging that Mashatile's activity might overlap with other, unreported networks of corruption. Speculation is rampant that overseas intelligence services are about to unveil compounding evidence of Mashatile's purported offshore bank accounts and secret dealings. Should such evidence surface, the controversy could engulf not only the deputy president, it could entail ANC bigwigs and rattle the foundations of South Africa's political establishment. Even veteran analysts are finding it difficult to envisage how the ANC could survive such a tempest, especially with national elections on the horizon. For most of their number, this is no longer simply about the conduct of one man. It is now about the standing of South Africa itself. The refusal to grant the visa to Mashatile and the shock arrest warrant have ensnared not just the deputy president but the whole governing party in an international scandal. The ANC, previously lionized as Nelson Mandela's party, now has the daunting prospect of being considered corrupt, dysfunctional on the international scene.